You are tuning in to the You Are Loved podcast, where we hope to bring love and kindness to the world.
Welcome to another You Are Loved podcast, where we have the beautiful Marta, a trauma-informed coach specializing in core transformation and wholeness work, gentle evidence-based approaches that support deep emotional healing without re-traumatization. She helps people move through trauma, grief, burnout, life transitions, and present emotional patterns by reconnecting with their inner resources and a sense of wholeness. Originally from Ukraine, she lived in several countries and the United States. Her multicultural journey shaped a deep understanding of identity, belonging, and personal transformation. For years, she fulfilled the roles expected of her: supporting wife, loving mother, good daughter, hardworking professional. But the more she sank into the life she thought she was supposed to live, the more she lost connection with herself. She had a turning point when she realized, I know what I am, but not who I am. I know my duties and responsibilities, but not myself. Burnout and emotional emptiness led her to question her identity and purpose. In the beginning, she believed she had to become someone else to be worthy, but she learned that true transformation isn't about becoming someone now. It's about becoming more of who we truly are. Through her own work with unworthiness, shame, guilt, generational trauma, and fear of being seen, she didn't become a new version of herself. She became more of herself. Today, she helps others release trauma-driven patterns and return to a life that feels authentic, grounded, and deeply her own. Welcome, Marta. Thank you so much for coming on. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So your story is both tender and powerful. And when you said, I knew what I was, but not who I was, can you take us back to that moment and how it became the turning point in your healing journey?
Yes, it is. I would say it is a journey, definitely. And it's not probably a moment. It's few recurring moments that comes through years, sometimes for some people through decades. But I think we all, one point or another, we come to question who we are. And for me, it just came with, fulfilling a lot of roles that I thought I needed to be or have. I knew I have to be married, I have to have kids, to be kind of perceived as fulfilled as woman, as like fulfilling my own roles. So the more I step into those roles, the more I realize I kind of disconnect from myself. I living from the expectations of others, what I supposed to be. And even though I genuinely wanted to have family, I wanted to be a mother, I wanted to, have career, somehow it felt disconnected. It was really deeply like I was actually playing those roles and trying to manage them and manage other people's expectations versus to be present within my life. And I think at some point, it came through a lot of, difficult moments when I realized, okay, I need to make some changes. I need to turn more into who I am, because at some point I felt empty. I felt like I had all these things that I truly enjoyable in life. My life was going really well, but I was feeling I was not actually participating in my life. So that kind of took me on the journey of self-discovery and going deeply into understanding who I am, who I actually am in terms of my authenticity, in terms of my own, preferences in life. What I I started to question a lot of things. Do I really like these things, or it's just something that I think I need to like? So it's been a journey, and at times difficult one, but definitely worth taking and very much fulfilling. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I mean, it's great that sometimes it's so hard to go through like transitions like that in your life, but it is worth it once you can get through it, get to the other side, and you come out on the other side healed, fulfilled, more purpose, And I feel like there's just different seasons in our life for each thing to help bring out past traumas and stuff like that we've had in our lives. And at some point in our life, it's going to come to a head. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yes. And I think it's, I was growing up, I think many young generations that grow up with the idea of what is success is, what is life, happy life is. And in many ways, I was driven by those kind of internal definition of those. And I think like a lot of now working with people, a lot of inner disconnect becomes from that point of trying to be loved in a way that receiving love from outside, right? Receiving like loving relationship. If I only have good relationship with my partner or my kids or my parents, I kind of will feel loved internally. However, often it's other way around. If we're not able to feel that love towards ourselves, we're not able to receive love. We're not able to effectively give love to others, and that outside external love becomes just like a point of validation for ourselves when we don't actually um, never maybe have to go and work on our own traumas, as you said, or past life experiences that often leave us feeling unworthy, feeling guilt, feeling shame, all of these vulnerable emotions that we try to hide and construct this perfect image from outside. So just we don't have to like kind of go into own vulnerability internally. And I think you probably hear a lot of stories when people say something like difficulties in life was actually blessing when it transformed and give it this way out of this like a little tiny box. So I think that was my experience. I came to the some circumstances in life and I realized I can't control, when I thought I can control everything around me, and it was like I have it all figured it out, and life just happened at some point when I realized and had this like experiential a situation when I realized I can't really control anything. War in Ukraine was like part of it, right? Part of that. My kids were diagnosed with kind of both kids genetic hearing loss, so it was like a lot of circumstances that was completely out of my control. And what I could do is adjust my vision and how I perceive situation. So that's in short story long how I got into my own inner journey, and now it's been very rewarding to work with others and actually kind of help people reconnect with themselves, with power within themselves. Yeah.
Okay. And no, that's amazing. And it's amazing that you've been able to like live all over the world and been able to make it here to the United States and have your family and just grow through like so much. You know what I mean? It's like here in the United States, a lot of people don't get a chance to visit a lot of other countries, but it's amazing like how people that live in like Europe or like, Ukraine or wherever, and they have an opportunity, or it's like they've like visited way more countries than the United States, a lot of people in the United States have. So I think that's kind of exciting. And like, I would love to go to Europe one time and just travel like on their bullet train and like just visit like, all these different countries and like, like a few days or whatever, like a week or something like that,
That's for sure very, very exciting. For me, it was kind of experience, I grew up in kind of, culturally in a small, close environment, in a small town. And coming to United States, I realized that all these beliefs that I had, that like how things supposed to be, what's okay, what's not okay, was not applicable here at all. So it was just like people was living completely different kind of life. And at the beginning, it was really shocking to me. Later on, I realized like how those kind of tiny perspective can keep us in this, closed off mindset when we don't accept others just because we don't understand them.
Yeah.
In that, like traveling through different countries, living in different cultures, really expanded this. There isn't really no right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
There's no right religion, no wrong religion. There is no right cultural rules. It's all about perspective, and people come from the same point of I want to belong, I want to be loved, I want to have my family, I want to have this close connections. Just a very kind of worldview shattering event for me, because there are so many things that was like kind of set in stone rules in my own country, when here it was not even applicable. So that was very, very interesting experience. That's probably why, I value travel so much. I was born in Soviet Union. That's
okay.
so I went through like a lot of like experiences post Soviet Union, and I remember watching the shows like when we got TV, and there was some American shows, and I could see like people had the ice cream in the fridge. They could just like open the fridge and have ice cream there. And for me as a kid, it seemed like it was something magical, something like, wow, life must be so perfect. And like, it's never rains. It's always like sunshine and unicorns there. So, and now watching my own children kind of growing with the same experience, I realize it doesn't change the perspective really. Those external stuff that we have, in the United States, people have way more than anywhere else probably in the world in terms of materialistic side of life. However, it doesn't translate directly into fulfillment, happiness, for me, I really value experience of not having something, because I can really value and appreciate when I do. And I can understand like how that can create, being able to have difficulties in life can build and help you appreciate good times in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that must have been interesting. Like, how did you deal with that when it came to like, do you still have family over in Ukraine or Russia?
Yeah, my own
Yes,
family in Ukraine.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's got to be hard, especially with all the turmoil and stuff like that, between here and there. So yeah.
It's definitely, it took me on a journey to exploring my generational trauma. And even though I'm here, a lot of times I'm there, even like my experience is different. But I do understand that that culturally and generational patterns that pass along, it took me a long time to really be ready to work with that. I think in terms of, because it's such a difficult moment now, and at some point,
So okay, so you help people not, so like this, like becoming someone new, right? So like you help people not become someone new, but more of who they truly are. Like, how can we begin to recognize the difference between striving to be like enough, right, and simply returning to like who we are, like ourselves?
Yes, and I thank you for this question, because I think it's very, very important. Anyone who's on a journey of change, I used to believe that I did need to become somebody better, somebody change my, gone from procrastination to overachieving, and change the sides of myself that I really didn't like. And it creates even more like inner conflict internally, because we can't get rid of any parts of ourselves. We can only transform what we already have within. And I think that's when true healing began for me, when I started like stop running from this kind of things that I didn't accept in myself, and started to go in. And a lot of this, like what I work with, it's like form of inner parts work. So it's really like going in and communicating with this vulnerabilities within, parts that traumatize, parts that try to hide or we try to suppress simply. So that's the one that gave me understanding that truly on a deep level, all parts of me are good. And it helped me to build on my own like sense of self-worth, not from my achievements or not from what I'm doing, but from how I feel within myself. I think that's what I do in my work, and it's really kind of helps me to see my clients as understand the value of going and transforming something that already there, versus to try to build. Because often, change can, especially mindset change, it goes into, okay, you want to, for example, exercise. let's go in, let's build on it, let's use willpower to make you stay consistent, to make you, go in and kind of break your patterns. And it uses a lot of inner energy to actually suppress the other part of you that might want to, snacking or have emotional eating pattern as the way of coping with emotions, especially I think, for a lot of women who disconnected from all feelings, that's the way to cope. So when you take that coping mechanism away and try to force, like, to push it even more down, it's really, from rational perspective, it sounds like a good idea, but from the point of our subconscious mind and our whole system, it's really not, because we're creating this chaotic environment and even more stressed on already like stress system. So if you take the away coping mechanism without really giving something better choices, and at some point, that's why many people experience just a flipping, right? They can perceive for a week or for a month or for a year, and after they flip back to the old habits, because they're not really working with what actually holding them back from change. It's not like they don't have motivation to change. Even the fact that they want to go to the gym, it means they have motivation to change something, and they have motivation to work out. It's a matter of working with something that's holding them back from it and doing it in a kind and gentle way. So it's not like we don't forcing, ourselves internally.
Yeah.
Not
And
all.
giving like being kind to yourself, forgiving yourself, and then giving yourself an opportunity to heal. So that way, yeah. So so even like biblically and stuff like that, it talks about that. Like if you are going to release something negative out, you need to fulfill it with something that's positive that you are going to seek after, so that way the negative piece doesn't come back in and start to consume you again,
Right. Yeah, because it can show up in a different way. Those, if you may, it's not result in the same behavior, but it may show up in a different behavior in a different situation. So when we transform it from within, it just becomes the resource versus something that we need to push against.
So now that leads me to this question. So like when you work with like deep trauma, right? But emphasize not re-traumatizing, like what does trauma informed care look like in real life? And why is we were just talking about gentleness is like such a powerful part of the healing process?
So I work with modalities that needs very little content. So people don't have to really tell me the story and what happened on like emotional memory level. All we need is just to understand what person wants to transform. If they have intrusive memories, if they have some like feeling of vulnerability or anxiety or fear, that's the things that we work on. We don't go actually deep down to understand when it was created, why, what led to this situation, what kind of life circumstances person had to go through to have that emotional response. Because often it's deeply traumatizing for people. It's like a lot of people avoiding actually going to therapy because they don't want to just simply revisit what they already lived through. As the coach, I work as how it's presenting today in a client's experience and what they want to transform today out of their emotions or behaviors. And we go and connect with the part of them that actually holds that behavior or emotion that they want to transform. Because it's not on the rational level. It would say if it would be something we can talk through, right, then person would not have that urge or repetitive behavior if they wanted to change. So often those vulnerable experiences, they rarely code in words, right? They code in feelings, they code in like some verbal information like voices, smell. It's in a different level of coding. So that's why it's so hard to really rationally transform on a rational level this deep subconscious patterns.
Yeah.
When
It's
we,
kind of, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so when we connect with the part, we just simply go and ask the part, what does it want? So part that, for example, feel anxious, often it wants safety. So, or security, or feel protected, or, like escape the situation, something that's the inner kind of coping mechanism. And so when we ask this part what it wants, and after we invite the part to what it's like to already have what it wants, what it's like to already have the safety. And there's precise line of questioning when with each kind of question, part goes deeper into what it wants through that surface level behavior. So through safety, if part has safety, it can realize it wants connection, or it wants love, or it wants joy. So we go through precise questioning, like process of questioning, until the part reaches what we call core state. It's a deep resourceful state. It's a sense of wholeness, sense of presence, well-being, unconditional love. It's very unique for each person, but it's like what we might say deep meditative states. That's on the beingness level, something that not experienced of outside action. It's just something within. So that's what transforms a lot of this initial behaviors or emotions for the part. It's in a short way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's crazy how sometimes when we go through like trauma and stuff from our past, that we can still feel it or smell it, or it's like it comes in our brain. If it's real, a lot of that is like with PTSD style type of stuff. And yeah, it's just really like crazy. Yeah. And I wish I wish that it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? I wish that you could just forget about it and like move on and not have to deal with it. You know what I mean? And it just not affect your life. But unfortunately, unfortunately it does. And maybe it's forcing us to like forgive, come to a place of forgiveness, come to a place of healing, and just dealing with that trauma so it doesn't have an opportunity to continue to eat us up, you know?
And often, in this parts of us that hold trauma, there is one of the kind of most profound resources are like our creativity, our self-expression. Usually, like a lot of parts that take on trauma, it's those parts that hold deep resources for us. So forgetting about it would be like, in a way, leaving behind the part of yourself that like very valuable and has this deeply healing and important parts to our being, to be authentic, to be who we are. Those experiences shape us in a way. Yes, many people go through very painful things that nobody needs to or have to go through. And in many ways, it's there is also a lot of learnings, a lot of understanding of own strengths, and it's like when it transforms, it can give that deep meaning and inner strengths.
Yeah. So I have a question. So like, many of us and carry these inherited beliefs or wounds from, previous generations and our previous life, right? There are different seasons in life and stuff like that. What's one way that we could start to identify and release those patterns so that way they no longer shape our present?
I think in a lot of forms it comes from the deep identity. If you have some patterns that repeat in your life and something that you identify deeply with, without kind of understanding, okay, that was like in the second grade, teacher, shaped me in front of the class. That's why I'm afraid of public speaking. If you don't have that really defined reason, or it's something that often people say, I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be like them. They try to change that based on whatever behaviors or emotions their parents hold, and they try to be something opposite. And often they end up in many situations be exactly like their parents, because it's just adapted on unconscious level. It's something we don't choose, right? When we grow up and we just, that's how the humans learn. We just learn by observing and adapting whatever we see from adults around us. So I think those patterns, if it's like very persistent or something that hard to identify, it may be something that just generationally passing along. And it can be in very different ways, right? Often people think generational patterns is like abuse or, some addictions. And it can be that, but it also, like in my case, it's a fear of visibility. When being visible, it feels extremely scary and something that I need to avoid. So it took me a lot of time to work through that generational trauma, and it's past, like, it's on history, on my cultural history and family history. So it's something that kind of holding you back, and it's always rooted in some fear, I would say guilt, shame, some kind of feeling less. That's something that comes through generation.
Yeah. I would say probably for myself, like I've had like sexual trauma and stuff like that that's happened to me and when I was younger and stuff. And so that has created a pattern of like I get defensive easily and just like it's like fight or flight type of stuff or whatever. And I feel like sometimes I feel like it's so ingrained. It's not who I am at my core. Like I'm just like my company, You Are Loved, is like who I am at my core. The other piece is patterns that have been created out of trauma. And it's like, how would you recommend someone to deal with that, to like start to say, okay, I don't want to be that defensive person anymore. I want to be better centered, and I want to be living in my truth of like serving others, caring about others, loving others, helping other people, being an advocate for them. Like that's who I am at my core,
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing and bringing this question on your own example. I think first thing is to realize that part of you that's defensive, it's really trying to protect you and have this very, very important purpose for you. So just understanding that that is extremely powerful, right? Because that part was created, was best resources that it had. It made the best decision that it had to protect you. And because it was useful at some point, it kind of keep going in the same pattern, because it's really only job to kind of keep you probably safe and make sure it doesn't happen. Things don't repeat itself. So first of all, to just recognize that, and it's much easier to do, right, when you work with somebody professionally who can hold the space for you, who can really kind of guide you into that experience. But just understanding that every single part of us, it has the deep positive meaning for us. It's like to create that ability to be kinder to ourselves and understand, yes, when you're defensive, it's because there is a need, some inner safety need or some other need that this part trying to fulfill for you. And just to be present with yourself and those reactions, not that from that point, I need to be somebody different, but in a way that to acknowledge and honor that what this part of you trying to do right at the moment.
Yeah.
And why, if we go and communicate with that part, you probably would understand the even deeper positive intention that this part has for you. What we learn when we communicate these parts, they usually created early on until like 7 or 10 years old. Usually some parts like very preverbal, very early on. So that's the and they don't know that you're now big and adult and can handle situation much better because they isolated in their own response, in a way to survive and make sure they're able to keep you safe.
Yeah.
So to understand that, and just coming from this point of kindness, I think, and understanding that you're doing best that you can in the moment with the best resources that you have in the moment. And I think that, your podcast, when you're able to feel more centered in your work, when you're able to feel more centered, it's you building on in this like true authentic self when you can rely more and more. And when we have those responses, I don't think any person will ever be free of those unconscious responses, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it might be. It's just a matter how much it interferes in our life and how much it makes us disconnected from our true selves. So if there is a way to integrate that, and I think just sharing your example, bringing it on, and be able to embrace that this is part of you and it's already beautiful. And yeah, I don't know if it's like answering your question, but it's just going in and get to know these parts better. It's the very gentle way of healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I agree with that. Like I back in several years ago, I used to go to a therapist twice a week, and then it dropped down to once a week, then a couple times a month, and then once a month. And then I was able to phase out of that. But anytime I need her when I'm going through something traumatic, she's still there for me, even a few years later, a couple years later, whatever. But it definitely changed my life and helped me heal in a lot of different areas. But sometimes there's also times where God puts me in a position where I have nothing else and it's just nothing but Him. Like, years ago, I was going through some stuff and he just had me sitting in an airport that was like waiting for a flight for hours.
Mhm.
And it just was like just bringing out all this like thoughts, and I was praying and like just thinking about things, and just bringing out stuff and healing. It's like once you're able to recognize it, then you can deal with it, then you can heal from it.
Exactly.
um but there's certain patterns that that have been created in myself that I just want to be a little bit softer. I don't want to
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
so harsh, but although that's also done me well in other areas and not so much in
Yeah.
some.
And I
you
think
know
that you touched on such an important point that like that transformation, it comes from some form of connecting to something within ourselves that we perceive as you know bigger, or like
mhm
for you it's a God, right? When you're able to connect with God and work through it, there is no way really one path to healing. Everyone on their own journey of healing. They think
yeah
to understand and reconnect with those inner resources that we do have internally. It's really the core of healing on its own.
yeah yeah So going through like a lot of that stuff, and especially like women who are like in their careers or building businesses, and then sometimes feeling lonely, feeling burnt out, um and especially like, I used to be a big people pleaser, and sometimes I still fall back into that, and I
Yeah, I can
try to
relate to that.
yeah, I try to recognize the signs to get myself out of it. But it's like when women are living up to others' expectations, like what do you think are some early warning signs that we're living out of obligation instead of authenticity?
I think mostly what you mentioned, it's burnout, right? It's
Mm,
something that we feel disconnected, like energy not flowing. We like feel like we're using all our energy for something external, and in the end, even results are there, we don't feel fulfilled. We feel drained. We
mm-hmm,
don't feel like that enjoyment of what we're creating and life that we have, right? It's like we're not participating there. We're just, in a way, giving all our energy for it to, will keep turning. And often I think in for women who in career, expectations are so different, right? You have this career role when you have to be like on top of things, you have to be performing, having all the standards that are expected in that role. And after you go to the family and you have kids, and you have the different role when you need to be loving and you need to be caring. And often those roles interfere, right? If are you taking day off to go to the kids' field trip, or are you staying
Right.
in that important presentation? And either one you choose, you run into this inner conflict and feeling guilty, right? Feeling, okay, I didn't do enough in the end of the day. You might have amazing results, but that inner criticism and that feeling of guilt that you're not covering all the things at the same time with only 24 hours in a day, it's still kind of unreasonable. But a lot of time it brings to this inner exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my therapist saying. It's like sometimes exhaustion, like a loss of a longtime pet or a family member or friend. It's just a lot of different things can bring out a lot of different emotions with that normally wouldn't be there.
Even like anxiety now, it's like, I think, very hard word right out there. And that can be a sign of just burnout, that
Yeah.
feeling like running behind, feeling like something out of control, even when everything seems fine. And it's on a normal day, right? If you take somebody who going through some medical diagnosis, if you have somebody who is caregiver for others, it's a whole new level of that inner resources exhaustion and draining.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like the sole person for both my parents to take them to like major doctor's appointments and stuff,
Mhm.
and they live in 2 different states. So it's
Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, you can definitely
yeah.
relate to that. That's kind of, and that's the on also, like in the social norms, you have to keep it to yourself, right? You have to be at work your best. You have to be like with friends, with family. Those I work a lot of with grief and people who going through the grief, and I realize how stigmatized it is in society, right? We expect it to kind of, because people, I think, not very comfortable to talk about it. A lot of times people expect to go through it on its own, and it's very isolating experience.
Mhm.
End of the day, we all gonna lose loved ones, right? We all gonna experience some kind of grief through our life, and just it's in a way heartbreaking that many people feel so isolated in that, right? You have to be at work in 3 days and like nothing happened. It's like keep your grief at home, and
Mhm.
different person when you in a social environment, when you're at work and things like that. Yeah.
So, for listeners like who are in the middle of like grief or transition, what would you and they're having to deal with all this stuff, like what do you think's one gentle first step that they could take to begin reconnecting with themselves, like especially if they're feeling, numb or overwhelming and you're having to just be like, you know, just being a robot, I guess, like is trying to get through it.
I think the most like general advice is to listen to yourself, and not to push yourself to anything that you're not ready. Grief can
Mhm.
manifest in such a different ways. You can be numb for a very long time, or you can be sad or angry for very, at the beginning, especially emotions just so different and individual for everyone. And again, there's like social expectation how grief's supposed to be. I work, with people who feel guilty they're not grieving enough, or that grief is not in the way that's socially acceptable. And
Mm.
that's in a way just to listen and tune into what is you able to do right now for yourself. If that's just the staying home and not talking to anyone, or just reaching to the friend, or doing anything and whatever possibly you can, just to honor your own feelings at the moment. So the processes that I work with grief, they help reconnect people with the experiences that perceived as lost, with the person, loved person that they loving, and who's transitioned. Often our subconscious mind just simply codes this experiences as not available anymore. And very crucial part of relieving grief resourcefully is be able to reconnect to those resources of whatever they had in relationship, whatever they valued, love, connection, support, just those memories, because essentially those memories, it is part of our inner resources. So when our brain codes it as the not available anymore, we experience this huge void out of everything that we had with this person. So ability to reconnect, ability to remember, the positive moments, some whenever it's comfortable for a person, to just revisit some valuable moments out of this relationship, and helps to ease that sense of void of the grief.
Yeah. I think, yeah. So that's a great way. But okay. So on the podcast, we like to remind women that they're deeply loved. So how has reconnecting with like your own worth apart from like roles or expectations transformed the way you show up in life, relationships, and your calling?
Well, I'm able to show up on podcast.
That's amazing.
Able to do it like 5 years ago. So that's the huge part. But I think it's ability to be authentically you. It's always deeply fulfilling, and not having this critical voices or judgment on ourselves. It helps us to do so much more in the world, right? We can connect to our calling. We can connect to things that really fulfill us. And it's really a rippling effect, not just for us, but for communities, for our children, for our relationship. When I work with myself to find something that's truly fulfilling for me, it shifted a lot from I looked outside to something fulfill me to me able to give to others, and be present with others and support others. And I think it's innate nature of all of us. And if we're able to go in and connect deeply to ourselves, we have this experiential knowledge that we love within, and it's something that can really reshape many different things in the world. That's world can use some more love, and it all starts within. It's it's not starts with somebody else changing. It starts with us changing ourselves.
Oh, I love that. It starts with us changing ourselves. That's so true.
Yeah.
And all of us, like every single person has dealt with some type of trauma in their lives, at whatever season it is, but we all go through it. And yeah, so I just I'm excited. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Is there any last like words of healing or encouragement or anything that you'd like to share? If I've missed anything. Oh, how do people get in contact with you? Who's your ideal client? And yeah.
So I think I submitted website link. So
Yeah.
Connect
Got those. Okay.
Our website and schedule consultation. And also my ideal client, I work with a lot right now with women. I do grief work for volunteer for women who lost their family members in the war, and I also work with women because it's deeply right now been working with moms and myself having young children. It's very something that I feel passionate because I can see how much difference it can make within the families, transforming on the mom being able to be more resourceful, be more in touch with her own energy, emotions. It can really change a lot of things for future generations. It's the best gift that I believe I can give to my children. Work through my traumas now, so they don't have to later.
Yeah, exactly.
Just give them the opportunity to see me evolving and be able to learn from that.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, Marta, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I truly appreciate it. Okay. And we'll have all the links in the description. And that's it. So thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day. Okay. I'm so excited. And this will go out on Monday. Okay.
Wonderful. I really appreciate
on
it.
all the podcasting platforms. You'll be able to get it on Apple Podcasts. Hopefully you subscribe to us there. If not, I can send you the link. And it'll be out on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. And then we'll have shorts and clips all over the place as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
It was
All right.
wonderful to be here today with you.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you. Everyone, stay tuned to another You Are Love podcast. We're so excited to have everybody listening. Please, if you want to get one of our amazing 21-day transformational journals, it's You Are Loved journal. You can go to youareloved.store. And then our planners, which also comes with a 10-minute mastermind for free. Please give us please go to youareloved.store. Thank you and have an amazing day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of You Are Loved. If you have any topic ideas or would like to be a guest on the show, please hit us up on Instagram at youareloved.store.